Everyone told Emma Foster to walk away from the billionaire who wanted to change her life. Her friends said he was just feeling guilty about what she'd sacrificed to save him. His business associates said she was a gold digger trying to trap a vulnerable man. But when Adrian Knight showed up at her tiny apartment with tears in his eyes and a confession that would shatter every assumption about love and money, Emma realized that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is let someone love you completely. The March rain drummed against the windows of Seattle General Hospital like an urgent heartbeat, but Emma Foster barely noticed as she hurried through the corridors of the trauma wing, her worn nursing shoes squeaking against the polished linoleum. At 22, she moved through the hospital with the quiet confidence of someone who'd learned early that healing others was her calling, even if it meant sacrificing her own comfort. Her honey-blonde hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail that couldn't quite contain the rebellious strands that framed her heart-shaped face, and her green eyes held the kind of gentle strength that made frightened patients immediately trust her. The second-hand scrubs she wore were faded but clean, and she carried herself with the dignity of someone who measured worth by compassion rather than possessions. "Emma, thank God you're here," called Dr. Patterson, the chief of emergency medicine, as she approached the nurse's station. His usually calm demeanor was frayed with exhaustion and something that looked like desperation. "We have a situation." Emma looked up from the patient charts she'd been organizing. "What kind of situation?" "Trauma Bay 3, 29-year-old male, multiple injuries from a motorcycle accident. He's lost massive amounts of blood, and we're running critically low on his type AB negative. The blood bank is dry, and the nearest supply won't arrive for 3 hours." Emma felt her stomach clench. AB negative was rare, occurring in less than 1% of the population. Without a transfusion soon, the patient would die on the table. "What are his chances without the blood?" she asked quietly. Dr. Patterson's expression was grim. "0. He'll be gone within the hour." Emma closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them with the kind of resolve that had carried her through 4 years of nursing school while working 3 jobs to pay tuition. "I'm AB negative," she said simply. "Dr. Patterson stared at her. "Emma, you can't donate that much blood safely. The amount he needs, it could put you in serious danger." "But it would save his life?" "Possibly, but—" "Then let's do it," Emma said, already moving toward Trauma Bay 3. "How much time do we have?" Through the Trauma Bay window, Emma caught her first glimpse of the man she was about to save. Even unconscious and battered, he was undeniably handsome. Tall and lean with dark brown hair that caught the harsh hospital lighting, strong features that spoke of determination and success, and an expensive watch on his wrist that suggested wealth beyond anything Emma had ever known. But what struck her most was how alone he looked lying on that table, surrounded by machines and medical staff, but with no one who seemed to know him personally. No family member holding vigil. "No emergency contacts?" Emma asked. "None listed. Whoever he is, he was traveling alone." Emma felt an unexpected pang of sympathy. She knew what it was like to be alone in the world, to face crises without family support or anyone who would notice if you disappeared. "Dr. Patterson," she said quietly, "I need you to know something before we do this." "What?" Emma felt heat rise in her cheeks, but she forced herself to meet his gaze. I've never been with anyone. Physically. The procedure you're describing, sharing blood through direct transfusion. It's the most intimate thing I've ever done with another person. If this creates any kind of connection between us." "Emma," Dr. Patterson's voice was gentle. "Are you absolutely certain you want to do this? Once we start, there's no going back. And given what you've just told me, this could change you in ways we can't predict." Emma looked through the window at the dying stranger, watching his chest rise and fall with mechanical assistance. In that moment, she made a choice that would alter the course of both their lives. "He's dying," she said simply. "And I can save him. That's all that matters." 30 minutes later, Emma lay on a gurney next to the unconscious stranger, for lines connecting their circulatory systems in an intimate dance of shared life. The procedure was experimental, dangerous, and would require them to remain connected for hours while Emma's blood slowly restored what he'd lost. "How are you feeling?" asked Nurse Rodriguez, monitoring Emma's vital signs with careful attention. Weak, but okay, Emma replied, though she could already feel the dizziness beginning to creep through her body as her blood pressure dropped. How is he? Stabilizing. Your blood is working. His pressure is coming up, and his color is improving. Emma turned her head to study the man beside her, this stranger for whom she was literally giving her life force. In the soft light of the recovery room, she could see that he was younger than she'd first thought, maybe late 20s, with the kind of refined features that spoke of good breeding and expensive schools. His breathing had deepened, becoming more natural, and some color had returned to his cheeks. Emma found herself studying the strong line of his jaw, the way his dark lashes cast shadows on his cheekbones, the expensive fabric of his torn clothing that spoke of a life she could barely imagine. I wonder who he is, she murmured, feeling increasingly lightheaded as more of her blood flowed into his veins. Does it matter? Nurse Rodriguez asked, adjusting the flow rate on Emma's 4. Emma considered the question seriously. No, she said finally. It doesn't matter who he is or where he comes from. He needed help and I could give it. That's enough. As the hours passed and her blood flowed steadily into his veins, Emma felt something she'd never experienced before. A strange sense of connection, as if they were sharing more than just blood. She found herself whispering encouragement to him, telling him to fight, to live, to come back to whatever life was waiting for him. Stay with me, she whispered as her own strength began to fade. I don't even know your name, but I need you to stay with me. Don't let my gift be wasted. The hospital room had grown quiet except for the steady beeping of monitors and the soft whisper of ventilators. Emma's world had narrowed to this moment, this connection, this act of giving everything she had to keep a stranger alive. You must have people who love you, she continued softly, her voice growing weaker. Someone must be worried sick, wondering where you are. Promise me you'll fight for them. Promise me you'll live. Around 4 a.m., something shifted. The stranger's breathing became stronger, his color more vibrant. Dr. Patterson checked his vital signs and smiled for the first time in hours. It's working, he said quietly. You did it, Emma. You saved his life. Emma managed a weak smile as profound exhaustion washed over her. Will he be okay? He'll be fine, Dr. Patterson assured her, beginning the delicate process of disconnecting the transfusion lines. Thanks to you, he's going to make a full recovery. Good, Emma whispered, allowing her eyes to drift closed. That's all I wanted. As they disconnected the lines that had bound them together for 6 hours, Emma felt an unexpected sense of loss, as if she were saying goodbye to someone who had become part of her. She'd given this stranger not just her blood, but something deeper, her first experience of true intimacy, of sharing her life force with another human being. By dawn, Emma was resting in a recovery room while the stranger, still unconscious but stable, was moved to a private suite. She'd saved a life, but she'd also given something of herself that she could never get back. Not just her virginity in the technical sense, but her innocence about what it meant to be connected to another person. As she drifted off to sleep, Emma felt changed in ways she couldn't yet understand. She'd started the night as a nursing student trying to save a stranger's life. She was ending it as a woman who discovered that love, even for someone she'd never met, could transform her completely. What Emma didn't know was that across the hall, the man she'd saved was beginning to stir. Adrian Knight's eyelids fluttered as consciousness slowly returned, and his first coherent thought would be a question that would change both their lives forever. Who was the angel who saved me? Have you ever sacrificed something precious for a complete stranger? What would you risk to save someone's life? Share your thoughts below, and subscribe because Emma's about to discover that sometimes the greatest gifts we give come back to us in ways we never expected. Emma woke to the soft morning light filtering through the hospital room blinds and the gentle touch of Nurse Rodriguez checking her pulse. Every muscle in her body ached, and she felt hollowed out, as if someone had drained not just her blood but her very essence. How are you feeling, honey? Nurse Rodriguez asked, her kind eyes filled with concern. Like I got hit by a truck, Emma admitted, struggling to sit up. But alive. How is he? The patient from last night. Awake and asking for you? Nurse Rodriguez said with a smile. Dr. Patterson wants to check you over first, but he's been quite insistent about meeting his guardian angel. Emma felt her cheeks warm. I'm not anyone's guardian angel. I just did what needed to be done. Tell that to him, Nurse Rodriguez chuckled. He's been asking every nurse who enters his room about the woman who saved his life. 30 minutes later, after Dr. Patterson had pronounced Emma stable enough for visitors, she found herself standing outside room 307, suddenly nervous about meeting the man she'd been intimately connected to for 6 hours. She smoothed her hospital gown and knocked softly. Come in, came a deep voice that sent an unexpected shiver down her spine. Emma pushed open the door and stepped into a private suite that looked more like a luxury hotel room than a hospital. The man she'd saved was sitting up in bed, and seeing him conscious took her breath away. Adrian Knight was devastatingly handsome. Tall even while seated, with piercing blue eyes that seemed to look right through to her soul, sharp cheekbones that could cut glass, and dark hair that was perfectly tousled despite his ordeal. But it was the intensity of his gaze that made Emma's heart race. You, he said softly, his voice carrying a weight of emotion that surprised her. You're her. You're the one who saved me. Emma nodded, suddenly feeling shy.
I'm Emma Foster.
I'm glad to see you're okay. Okay? Adrian's laugh was incredulous. I'm alive because of you. Do you have any idea what you did for me? I gave blood to someone who needed it, Emma said simply, moving closer to his bed. Anyone in my position would have done the same thing. No, Adrian said firmly, his blue eyes never leaving her face. Anyone else would have donated the minimum amount safely possible and called it good. You gave so much of yourself that you could have died. Dr. Patterson told me everything. How you insisted on the direct transfusion, how you stayed connected to me for hours, how you nearly passed out from blood loss. Emma felt heat rising in her cheeks. The doctor shouldn't have told you all that. He told me because I needed to understand the magnitude of what you sacrificed for a complete stranger. Adrian's voice grew softer, more vulnerable. Emma, what you did, sharing your life force with me, Dr. Patterson explained that for someone who hasn't been intimate with anyone before. Emma's face flamed red. He told you that too? He wanted me to understand that what happened between us wasn't just medical, Adrian said gently. It was something sacred, something that changed you in ways that can't be undone. Emma looked down at her hands, overwhelmed by the intensity of his gaze and the weight of what they'd shared. I don't regret it. You were dying and I could help. That's all that mattered. That's all that mattered to you, Adrian corrected. But Emma, I need you to know who I am, what your sacrifice has meant not just to me personally, but to thousands of other people. I don't understand. Adrian reached for his phone on the bedside table, pulling up a news article and handing it to her. The headline made Emma's world tilt. Tech billionaire Adrian Knight missing after motorcycle accident. Emma stared at the screen, her green eyes wide with shock. The article described Adrian as the CEO of Knight Technologies, one of Seattle's most successful companies, worth an estimated $8.2 billion. There were photos of him in expensive suits, accepting awards, speaking at conferences. Emma's voice was barely a whisper. One of the richest men in the Pacific Northwest, Adrian finished. And you saved my life without knowing anything about me, without caring about my money or my status or what I could do for you in return. Emma set the phone down with trembling hands. I still don't care about those things. I know, Adrian said, and something in his voice made her look up. That's what makes you extraordinary, Emma. Do you know how many people in my life want something from me? How many relationships I've had where I wondered if they loved me or my bank account? I can't imagine, Emma said honestly. I've been looking for someone real my entire life, Adrian continued, his voice growing more intense. Someone who would choose me for who I am, not what I have. And then you appear like an angel and save my life, expecting nothing in return. I wasn't expecting anything because it was the right thing to do, Emma said, feeling overwhelmed by the direction of the conversation. Exactly, Adrian said, leaning forward. Emma, I know this is crazy. I know we've just met. But what happened between us last night? Sharing blood, being connected like that, I've never felt anything like it. Emma's heart was racing. Adrian, let me take care of you, he said suddenly. Let me show you what it means to be cherished the way you deserve. You gave me life, Emma. Let me give you the world. Before Emma could respond, there was a sharp knock on the door, and a man in an expensive suit burst in without waiting for permission. He was tall, imposing, with the kind of authority that suggested he was accustomed to being obeyed. Adrian, thank God, the man said, rushing to the bedside. Thomas has been searching every hospital in the city. The board is in chaos. The press is asking questions. He stopped mid-sentence when he noticed Emma. Who is this? Emma Foster, Adrian said, his voice carrying a protective edge. The woman who saved my life. Emma, this is Robert Sterling, my business manager. Robert's eyes swept over Emma, taking in her hospital gown, her modest appearance, her obvious discomfort with the situation. His expression shifted to one of polite dismissal. Ms. Foster, he said with professional courtesy that barely concealed condescension. We're very grateful for your assistance. I'm sure the hospital will compensate you appropriately for your time. Compensate her? Adrian's voice carried warning. Robert, she saved my life. And we're thankful, Robert replied smoothly. But Adrian, we need to discuss your responsibilities. The Knight Technologies board meeting has been postponed, but there are urgent matters. The urgent matter, Adrian interrupted, his blue eyes flashing with anger, is making sure Emma understands how grateful I am. Everything else can wait. Emma felt the tension in the room and stood awkwardly. I should go. You have important business to handle. No, Adrian said firmly. Emma, please don't leave. Robert, whatever business we have can wait until I've properly thanked the woman who gave me my life back. Robert's expression tightened. Adrian, with respect, you've been through a traumatic experience. Perhaps we should discuss your gratitude when you're thinking more clearly. The implication was obvious, and Emma felt it like a slap. Robert Sterling thought she was some opportunistic nobody trying to take advantage of a vulnerable billionaire. I think he's right, Emma said quietly, backing toward the door. You should focus on getting better and returning to your responsibilities. I'm just glad you're okay. Emma, wait. Adrian started to get out of bed, but Emma was already at the door. Take care of yourself, Adrian, she said softly. I'm happy I could help. She slipped out of the room before he could stop her, leaving behind a furious billionaire and a business manager who thought he'd just prevented a costly mistake. But as Emma walked down the hospital corridor, she couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just walked away from something that could have changed her life forever. And in room 307, Adrian Knight was making a decision that would turn both their worlds upside down. He was going to find Emma Foster. He was going to show her what it meant to be loved without limits. And he was going to prove that some connections, forged in blood and sacrifice, were stronger than any obstacle the world could put between them. CTA 2. Have you ever walked away from something because you thought you didn't deserve it? What would you do if someone wanted to change your entire life because of one act of kindness? Share your thoughts below. And subscribe because Adrian's about to show Emma that some love stories begin with sacrifice and end with everything. The attack on their relationship came from an unexpected direction. Emma was leaving her anatomy final when she found Robert Sterling waiting by her car in the university parking lot, his expensive suit looking out of place among the beat-up vehicles that belonged to working students. Miss Foster, he said with the same politely dismissive tone she remembered from the hospital. I was hoping we could have a conversation. About what? Emma asked, clutching her textbooks defensively. About Adrian's future. And yours. Robert opened a manila folder, revealing what looked like legal documents. I represent not just Adrian personally, but the interests of Knight Technologies and its shareholders. Adrian's recent distraction has begun affecting his performance. Emma felt ice forming in her stomach. What do you mean? He's missed 3 board meetings in the past month. He's turned down 2 major acquisition opportunities. Yesterday, he told the Samsung executives that he had to leave their dinner meeting early to attend your nursing school awards ceremony. Robert's tone made it clear what he thought of that priority. Emma, Adrian is worth $8 billion. His decisions affect thousands of employees, millions of investors. He can't afford to be distracted by personal relationships. He seemed pretty focused at the awards ceremony, Emma said, remembering how proud Adrian had looked when she'd received the scholarship for clinical excellence. That's exactly the problem, Robert continued. Adrian has never let personal feelings interfere with business decisions. But since meeting you, he's become sentimental, emotional. It's affecting his judgment. Robert pulled out a photograph, Adrian and Emma laughing together at the free clinic, both of them covered in paint from helping redecorate the children's waiting room. This appeared in Seattle Business Weekly, Robert said. The headline read, "Billionaire CEO plays house with hospital worker." Do you understand what that does to Adrian's reputation? What it does to investor confidence? Emma stared at the photo, seeing how happy they both looked, how right they seemed together. We were volunteering, helping sick children. You were creating a public relations nightmare, Robert corrected. Emma, I'm going to be very direct with you. Adrian's board of directors is concerned about his recent behavior. There's talk of calling for a vote of no confidence. What does that mean? It means they could remove him as CEO of his own company, Robert said bluntly. Everything his parents built, everything he's worked for since he was 12 years old, could be taken away because he can't separate his personal life from his professional responsibilities. Emma felt the world tilting beneath her feet. That can't be legal. Adrian only owns 43% of Knight Technology stock. The board and institutional investors control the rest. If they vote together, they can force him out. Robert leaned against her car, his expression softening slightly. Emma, I've known Adrian since he was a college student. I've watched him build something extraordinary from the ashes of tragedy. Don't let him lose everything because he thinks he's in love. He doesn't think he's in love, Emma said quietly. He is in love, and so am I. Love is a luxury people like Adrian can't afford, Robert replied. Not when thousands of jobs and billions in economic impact hang in the balance. You seem like a nice girl, Emma. You clearly care about him. If you really love Adrian, you'll walk away before you destroy everything he's worked for. That evening, Emma sat in her apartment staring at her phone, trying to find the courage to call Adrian. How could she tell the man she loved that their relationship was threatening everything he'd built? How could she ask him to choose between her and the legacy his parents had left him? Her phone rang before she could decide. Adrian's voice was warm, excited. Emma, I have incredible news. I just got off the phone with the board, and they've approved my proposal for the Knight Foundation, a $1 billion charitable fund focused on healthcare access. You inspired this, sweetheart. Your work at the free clinic, your passion for helping people who can't afford medical care. I want to make that your full-time job. Emma felt tears streaming down her face. Adrian, I've had the lawyers draw up everything. You'd run the foundation, hire your own staff, set your own priorities. No more working 3 jobs to pay for school. No more choosing between textbooks and groceries. You could change thousands of lives, Emma. Stop, Emma whispered. What? Emma, what's wrong? I can't accept that. I can't accept any of it. There was a long pause. I don't understand. This morning you were excited about finishing your degree and starting your career. Now you sound like I'm breaking up with you? Emma's voice broke on the words. Because I am. What happened? Emma, talk to me. Whatever it is, we can fix it. Your business manager paid me a visit today, Emma said, forcing herself to stay strong. He explained what our relationship is costing you. The board meetings you've missed, the deals you've turned down, the investor confidence you're losing. Robert came to see you? Adrian's voice turned dangerous. What exactly did he say? The truth, Emma replied. That loving me is going to cost you everything your parents left you. That the board could force you out if you keep prioritizing our relationship over your responsibilities. So you're just going to give up? Walk away because some corporate suits are threatened by the fact that I've finally found something more important than profit margins. Yes, Emma said firmly. Because I love you too much to let you lose everything for me. Because the man I fell in love with is someone who built an empire from nothing, who employs thousands of people, who has the power to change the world. I won't be the reason that man gets destroyed. Emma, you're not listening. I'm listening perfectly, she interrupted. I'm listening to the fact that you've missed board meetings, that you've turned down business opportunities, that you're willing to throw away everything you've worked for because of feelings that started with a medical procedure. Is that really what you think? Adrian's voice was quiet now, hurt. That what we have is just some trauma bond from the hospital? Emma closed her eyes, forcing herself to say the words that would end everything. I think we both got caught up in something intense and emotional, and we mistook gratitude and adrenaline for love. But real love doesn't ask you to sacrifice everything that matters to you. You matter to me, Adrian said desperately. You matter more than any of it. And that's exactly the problem, Emma replied. Goodbye, Adrian. Thank you for showing me what it feels like to be cherished. I'll never forget that gift. She hung up before he could respond, then turned off her phone and cried until she had no tears left. 6 months later, December 24th, 2025. Emma was working the Christmas Eve shift at Seattle General, covering for colleagues who had families to go home to, when Dr. Patterson found her in the break room staring out at the snow-covered city. Rough night? He asked, settling beside her with 2 cups of coffee. Just thinking, Emma said, accepting the coffee gratefully. It's been 6 months since everything happened. I keep wondering if I made the right choice. Have you heard from him? Emma shook her head. I've seen the business news, though. Knight Technologies just closed the biggest acquisition in their history. Adrian was named CEO of the Year by Forbes. His foundation is funding free clinics across the Pacific Northwest. She smiled sadly. He's exactly where he's supposed to be. And where are you supposed to be? Before Emma could answer, there was a commotion in the hallway. Through the break room window, she could see paramedics wheeling in a patient. A young woman who looked barely conscious, her boyfriend holding her hand and talking urgently to the medical team. Motorcycle accident, she heard someone say. Massive blood loss. Type AB negative. Emma was moving before she consciously decided to, her coffee forgotten as she followed the gurney toward the trauma bay. But as they prepared to enter the treatment room, she stopped short. Standing by the nurse's station, still in an expensive suit despite the late hour, was Adrian Knight. He looked older somehow, more serious, but when his eyes met hers across the bustling corridor, Emma saw the same intensity that had taken her breath away 8 months ago. Emma, he said softly, moving toward her. I heard about the patient. AB negative blood loss. I came as soon as I could. Why? Emma asked, her heart hammering against her ribs. Because I remember what it's like to need a miracle, Adrian said simply. And I remember the angel who gave me one. Dr. Patterson appeared beside them, his expression grim. Emma, I hate to ask this again, but I'll do it, Emma said immediately. Whatever she needs. It's not that simple this time, Dr. Patterson said. She needs more blood than one person can safely give. We need multiple donors. I'm AB negative too, Adrian said quietly. Let me help. Emma stared at him in shock. Adrian, you can't. If something happened to you, then we'd better make sure nothing happens to either of us, Adrian said, rolling up his sleeves. Some things are more important than playing it safe, Emma. You taught me that. An hour later, Emma and Adrian lay on gurneys side by side, connected not just to the dying woman in the next room, but to each other through the shared act of giving life. The intimacy was overwhelming. Sharing this sacred space again, remembering what it felt like to trust someone completely. Why did you really come tonight? Emma asked softly. Because I've spent 6 months trying to forget you? Adrian said, his blue eyes fixed on her face. 6 months throwing myself into work, making deals, building the empire everyone said was so important. And you know what I discovered? What? None of it means anything without someone to share it with. None of it matters if I'm not becoming a better person because of it. Adrian's voice grew stronger. Emma, you were wrong about love. Real love doesn't ask you to sacrifice everything that matters. It helps you understand what actually matters. Adrian, I restructured the entire company, he continued. Promoted people who understand that success means more than profit. Implemented policies that put employee well-being first. Created systems that let me be both a good CEO and a man who prioritizes the people he loves. Emma felt tears streaming down her face. The board let you do that? The board works for me, not the other way around, Adrian said firmly. And if they didn't like it, they were welcome to find another CEO who could deliver the results I've been delivering, while also revolutionizing corporate culture. What results? Adrian's smile was radiant. Knight Technologies just had the most profitable year in company history. Turns out that when your CEO is motivated by love instead of just ambition, when he understands what truly matters, he makes better decisions. He builds better relationships. He creates better outcomes. As the transfusion continued and their shared blood flowed into the woman who needed their gift, Emma felt something shifting inside her chest. Hope, forgiveness, the possibility of second chances. Emma, Adrian said softly, I know I hurt you by being careless with my priorities. I know you sacrificed our relationship because you thought it was best for me. But I need you to know that losing you taught me something crucial. The only empire worth building is one that has room for love at its center. What are you saying? I'm saying I spent 6 months proving that I can be successful and devoted, ambitious and loving, a good CEO and a better man. I'm saying that I've restructured my entire life around the possibility that someday you might give me another chance. Emma looked at him, this man who had changed everything about how he lived because he refused to choose between success and love, and felt her carefully constructed walls crumbling. The woman we're helping, Emma said softly. What if this connection we're sharing right now is just trauma bonding again? What if? Then we'll figure it out together, Adrian interrupted. Emma, I don't care if our love started with blood transfusions or trauma bonding or cosmic coincidence. I care that it's real, that it makes us both better people, that it's strong enough to survive separation and strong enough to rebuild from the ground up. As the monitors showed that their patient was stabilizing, that their combined gift had saved another life, Emma made a choice that would define the rest of her future. I love you, she whispered. I never stopped loving you. I just got scared that love this big couldn't coexist with a life this complicated. We'll figure out the complications together, Adrian said, reaching for her hand despite the 4 lines connecting them to their patient. We'll build something that honors both your dreams and mine. We'll prove that the greatest love stories aren't about choosing between success and happiness. They're about redefining success to include happiness. 6 hours later, as they were disconnected from the lines that had bound them together, Emma and Adrian held each other in the recovery room while snow fell outside the hospital windows. They'd saved another life together, but more importantly, they'd saved their own love story. Marry me, Adrian said suddenly, his voice strong despite his exhaustion. We just got back together. Emma laughed, but her heart was soaring. We've been connected since the moment you chose to save my life, Adrian replied. Everything else has just been learning how to build a life worthy of that connection. Emma looked into his blue eyes and saw their future, messy and complicated and absolutely perfect in its imperfection. Yes, she said simply. Let's build something beautiful together. As Christmas morning dawned over Seattle, 2 people who had found each other through the most unlikely circumstances held each other and planned a future that would prove love really could conquer every obstacle, redefine every expectation, and create something stronger than either of them could build alone. Do you believe that true love can survive any challenge when both people are willing to fight for it? Have you ever had to choose between what seemed practical and what felt like destiny? Share your own stories of love that refuse to give up in the comments below. And if this story reminded you that the best love stories require both people to become their best selves, subscribe and share it with someone who needs to believe that real love always finds a way. Emma returned to her small studio apartment in Capitol Hill feeling like she'd lived through a dream, or perhaps a nightmare. The modest space, with its second-hand furniture and thrift store decorations, seemed even smaller after glimpsing Adrian's world of private hospital suites and business managers who spoke in millions. She sat on her narrow bed, staring at the hospital discharge papers that listed her condition as blood loss due to voluntary transfusion, and tried to process what had happened. She'd saved a man's life and discovered he was one of the wealthiest people in the city. He'd looked at her like she was something precious, something miraculous, but his business manager had looked at her like she was a problem to be solved. Emma understood which perspective would ultimately win. Her phone buzzed with a text from her roommate and best friend. "Chloe, how did the extra shift go? You look exhausted in your selfie." Emma realized she hadn't even thought about the lie she'd told to explain her overnight absence. Chloe thought she'd been working an extra nursing shift to pay for textbooks, not saving the life of a billionaire CEO. "Long night," Emma texted back. "Tell you later." But there wouldn't be anything to tell, Emma decided. Adrian Knight belonged to a different world. One where people like her were invisible except when they were useful. She'd go back to her nursing studies, her part-time jobs, her quiet life of helping people who actually needed her. That resolution lasted exactly 18 hours. The first flowers arrived Tuesday morning, 3 dozen white roses delivered to the hospital's nursing station with a card that simply read, "Thank you for giving me life."
Aka.
When Emma tried to refuse them, Nurse Rodriguez laughed and said they were the most beautiful flowers she'd seen in 30 years of nursing. "Someone must think very highly of you," she said with a knowing smile. "It's just gratitude," Emma insisted, but she couldn't deny the way her heart fluttered when she read the card. The second delivery came to her apartment Wednesday evening. A basket of gourmet food with enough provisions to feed her for a month. The card read, "You sacrificed your strength for me. Let me help you rebuild it." Thursday brought a delivery to her college. A check made out to Seattle University's nursing program for $50,000, designated as the Emma Foster Scholarship for Exceptional Compassion. The dean called Emma into her office personally. "Miss Foster," Dean Williams said, studying the check with amazement. "This is quite extraordinary. The donor specifically requested that it cover your remaining tuition and provide a stipend for living expenses. He said you exemplify everything this program hopes to teach about service to others." Emma felt dizzy. "I can't accept this." "Why not? You've maintained a 4.0 GPA while working 3 jobs. If anyone deserves support, it's you." "Because it's too much," Emma said desperately. "Because I don't know what he expects in return." Dean Williams studied her carefully. "The letter accompanying the donation says he expects nothing except that you continue being the remarkable person you already are." That evening, Emma called the number on Adrian's business card, which she'd found tucked into the flower arrangement. "Adrian Knight's office," answered a crisp female voice. "This is Emma Foster. I need to speak with Mr. Knight about some donations he's made." "Miss Foster," the voice immediately warmed. "Mr. Knight has been hoping you'd call. Please hold while I connect you." The phone barely rang once before Adrian's deep voice filled her ear. "Emma, you have to stop," she said without preamble. "Stop what?" "The flowers, the food, the scholarship. It's too much, Adrian. I saved your life because it was the right thing to do, not because I wanted to be repaid." "I know that," Adrian said gently. "That's exactly why I want to repay you. Emma, you gave me something priceless, and you won't let me even say thank you properly. A card would have been sufficient." "A card?" Adrian's voice carried disbelief. "Emma, you shared your blood with me. You gave me the most intimate gift possible. Do you understand what that means to someone who's spent his entire life wondering if anyone could love him for who he is rather than what he has?" Emma felt tears stinging her eyes. "I barely know you. Then let me change that. Have dinner with me. One meal, Emma. Let me show you that I'm not just some rich guy trying to buy your affection. Let me show you who I really am." "I can't," Emma whispered. We live in different worlds, Adrian. What happened at the hospital? It was beautiful, but it can't be anything more than that. Why not? Because people like me don't end up with people like you, Emma said, her voice breaking. Because your business manager was right to be suspicious of my motives, even if my motives were pure. Because everyone will think I'm a gold digger who took advantage of a vulnerable man. I don't care what anyone thinks. But I do, Emma said firmly. I care about my reputation, my integrity, my sense of self-worth. I won't be the poor girl who got lucky by saving a rich man's life. There was a long pause. Emma, you're breaking my heart. Then let it break, Emma said, her own heart shattering as she spoke. Let it break and heal and move on with someone from your own world. Someone who belongs in your life. She hung up before he could respond, then turned off her phone and cried until she had no tears left. But Adrian Knight hadn't built a billion-dollar empire by accepting no for an answer. Friday brought a different approach. Instead of gifts, Emma found Adrian himself waiting outside her apartment building when she returned from her evening shift at the campus bookstore. He was leaning against a modest sedan, not the expensive sports car she might have expected, wearing jeans and a simple sweater that made him look approachable human. You turned off your phone, he said when he saw her. For good reason, Emma replied, clutching her textbooks defensively. Emma, please, just 5 minutes. Let me explain something. Against her better judgment, Emma found herself stopping. There was something in his expression, vulnerability mixed with determination, that made it impossible to walk away. 5 minutes, she agreed. When I was 12, Adrian began. My parents died in a car accident. I inherited everything, the company, the money, the responsibility, but I lost the only people who had ever loved me unconditionally. For 17 years, I've been surrounded by people who want something from me. Business partners, girlfriends, even friends. Everyone has an angle. Everyone wants to benefit from knowing Adrian Knight. Emma felt her resolve weakening as she saw pain flicker across his handsome features. Then I wake up in a hospital bed, and a nurse tells me that a woman I've never met gave so much of her blood to save my life that she nearly died herself. And she did it for nothing, expecting nothing, wanting nothing except to help another human being survive. Adrian, you gave me hope, Emma. Hope that genuine love exists in this world. Hope that someone could choose me for who I am rather than what I can provide. Please don't take that away from me. Emma looked into his blue eyes and saw not the confident billionaire CEO, but a lonely man who'd been carrying the weight of the world since childhood. One dinner, she heard herself saying. One dinner, and then you let me get back to my life. Adrian's smile was radiant. One dinner, I promise. As Emma watched him drive away in his unremarkable car, she wondered if she'd just made the best decision of her life or the worst. But for the first time since leaving the hospital, her heart felt light instead of heavy. Maybe, just maybe, some walls were meant to be torn down. The restaurant Adrian chose for their dinner wasn't what Emma expected. Instead of some 5-star establishment where the waiters wore white gloves and the wine cost more than her monthly rent, he took her to a small Italian place in the University District, the kind of family-owned restaurant where the owner's grandmother still made pasta by hand and the walls were covered with photos of regular customers celebrating birthdays and anniversaries. This is your idea of dinner? Emma asked as they were seated at a corner table lit by a simple candle in a wine bottle. You said you didn't want to be treated like some rich man's charity case, Adrian replied, studying the handwritten menu. So I thought we'd go somewhere that judges you by how you treat the staff, not by how much you spend. Emma felt something in her chest loosen. You've been here before? Every Sunday for 3 years, Adrian said with a small smile. After my parents died, Mrs. Benedetti decided I needed someone to make sure I was eating real food instead of whatever my assistant ordered for lunch meetings. She doesn't care that I'm worth billions. She cares that I clean my plate and say please and thank you. As if summoned by his words, a small Italian woman with silver hair and fierce dark eyes approached their table, immediately wrapping Adrian in a hug that would have been inappropriate for most billionaire CEOs, but that he received with obvious affection. Adrian, mio caro, you look too thin. Mrs. Benedetti scolded, pinching his cheeks. And who is this beautiful girl? Finally, you bring someone nice instead of those plastic women who pick at their salads. Emma felt her cheeks warm as Adrian introduced her. Mrs. Benedetti, this is Emma Foster. Emma, this is Mrs. B, the woman who's been trying to fatten me up since college. Emma, Mrs. Benedetti said, studying her with shrewd eyes. This one is different. I can tell. She has kind eyes, gentle hands. You, Carmia, you are good for him. Yes? We're just friends, Emma stammered. Mrs. Benedetti snorted. Friends. Men like Adrian don't bring friends to my restaurant on Friday nights. You want the osso buco, both of you. Extra portions. And wine, the good Chianti, not the tourist bottle. As Mrs. Benedetti bustled away, Emma looked at Adrian with new eyes. She really does mother you. She and her husband never had children, Adrian said softly. When I started coming here as a college student, broke and homesick, she decided I needed looking after. She's probably the closest thing to family I have. What about business associates? Other executives? Adrian's expression grew guarded. They want something from me, contracts, investments, access to my network. Mrs. B just wants to make sure I don't forget what it feels like to be cared for. Over dinner, Emma began to see glimpses of the man behind the billionaire facade. Adrian told her about growing up in boarding schools after his parents' death, about the loneliness of having unlimited money but no one to share meaningful moments with. He asked about her childhood, her dreams, her passion for nursing, and listened to her answers with the kind of focused attention that made her feel like the most important person in the world. Why nursing? He asked as they shared a piece of Mrs. Benedetti's legendary tiramisu. My younger brother got sick when I was 16, Emma said, her voice growing soft with memory. Leukemia. I spent 2 years watching nurses care for him, seeing how they could bring comfort in the darkest moments. They couldn't save him, but they made sure he never felt alone, never felt afraid. I'm sorry, Adrian said, reaching across the table to cover her hand with his. The night he died, one of his nurses stayed with me until morning, Emma continued. She didn't have to, her shift was over, but she held me while I cried and told me that love doesn't end when someone's body stops working. She said the greatest gift we can give someone is to witness their pain and choose to stay anyway. Adrian's thumb traced gentle circles over her knuckles. Is that what you did for me? Chose to stay. I chose to help, Emma said simply. But Adrian, I need you to understand something. I'm not looking for someone to rescue me or fix my problems. I don't want to be saved. What do you want? Emma looked into his blue eyes, seeing sincerity there that took her breath away. I want to be valued. I want to be chosen for who I am, not what I can do for someone else. I want to build something meaningful with someone who sees me as an equal, not a project. What if I told you that's exactly what I want too? Adrian asked softly. Over the following weeks, Adrian proved his words with actions. Instead of overwhelming Emma with expensive gifts, he showed up to study sessions with coffee and homemade cookies from Mrs. Benedetti. He attended her nursing school presentations, asking thoughtful questions about patient care and medical ethics. He volunteered with her at the free clinic where she worked, rolling up his sleeves to help with whatever tasks needed doing. You're different when you're here, Emma observed one Saturday afternoon as they organized medical supplies together. Adrian had spent the morning helping elderly patients fill out insurance forms, his usual corporate intensity replaced by gentle patience. Different how? He asked, looking up from the medication inventory he was updating. More real. Like this is who you actually are when no one's watching. Adrian set down his clipboard and moved closer to where Emma was sorting bandages. This is who I want to be when you're watching. The air between them crackled with unspoken tension. They'd been carefully maintaining physical distance, both aware that the intimacy they'd shared in the hospital had created a connection that went far deeper than casual attraction. Emma, Adrian said softly, his hand reaching up to touch her cheek. I need you to know something. What happened between us in the hospital? Sharing blood like that. It changed me. I can feel you sometimes, like you're part of me now. Emma's breath caught. I feel it too. Sometimes I wake up and I swear I can hear your heartbeat. Is that frightening to you? Terrifying, Emma admitted. But also, wonderful. Like I'm not alone anymore. Adrian stepped closer, his forehead touching hers. You're not alone. You'll never be alone again if I have anything to say about it. Adrian, Emma whispered, I need you to understand what this means to me, what we're building. It's not just about attraction or compatibility. You're the first person I've ever felt this connected to. If this doesn't work out, it will work out, Adrian said firmly. Because I'm not going anywhere, Emma. I've spent my entire adult life looking for someone real, someone who could love me for who I am rather than what I have. I found that in you. But what if your world doesn't accept me? What if? Adrian silenced her concerns with a gentle kiss, soft and tentative at first, then deeper as Emma melted into his arms. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. My world doesn't matter, Adrian said against her lips. You matter. This matters. Everything else is just noise. As spring turned to early summer, their relationship deepened in ways that surprised them both. Adrian learned to find joy in simple pleasures. Picnics in Volunteer Park, late-night study sessions in Emma's tiny apartment, cooking dinner together in his seldom-used kitchen. Emma learned to accept love without suspicion, to believe that someone could choose her not because they needed something from her, but because they genuinely treasured who she was. But neither of them realized that their growing love was being watched by people who had very different ideas about what Adrian Knight's future should look like. People who viewed Emma Foster not as the woman who had saved Adrian's life, but as a threat to everything they'd worked to build. The real test of their connection was about to begin.